Greetings and salutations, viewers and listeners. Welcome to another episode of Game Break. I am Charles, coming to you today with another episode of World and Economica. Now, we are well into this financial stock tracking challenge event thing, so let's find out just where that's going to lead us. How far along are we going to get today? Are we going to get closer to the end? Are we going to have some sandwiches? Are we going to take a break? Get some character development, perhaps? I don't know. Let's find out. It was in front of me. In front of me was the usual profile of someone who didn't really listen to people. I don't know why, but somehow it looked different from usual. By the time I realized that her cheeks were a bit red, it was already the end of the day, and I was in bed. Hey, that rhymed. By the next day, Hagana had contacted Serault, and a program that used real trading data to calculate prices was complete. That was pretty quick. I had no idea whether it was Serault or Hagana who was amazing, but in any case, it was all amazing. That program could even work in the real world. Hagana's program essentially copied what I was doing, but it wasn't like me because it wouldn't get sick, and it wouldn't get dull when it rained. It would scan the entire market tirelessly, every day, and always come back with some kind of seed for profit. I'd give that water and care. When it sprouted, I'd harvest. On the fake market, in a week we went from 25 million to 32 million mools. In the real world, 70,000 mools became 79,000. The reason why the gains in the real world weren't that much was because the situation was more complicated, and so the program's effectiveness was lower. Also, I couldn't bring myself to be that confident. However, Hagana's program did give me clues, and with those clues I could pry open the piggy bank. Didn't I say it would work? After the first trade, I remember saying that to Hagana. Hagana was still acting like a kitten that had been teased and was still wary. When I ran away from home and started trading, I had profited so insanely that I wondered repeatedly if it had all just been luck. But I had accumulated so much profit that I started wondering if the world really was that easy. Of course, for the moment, we were moving sluggishly or marching in place. But I thought it was just a temporary thing. Hagana was basically listening to how I made decisions and then turned them into formulas. It wasn't making me obsolete so much as just handling calculations I couldn't do. Like how when people pulled limestone from the lunar surface for buildings, they used machines to make their work faster. Machines could do everything a worker could do faster and to a larger extent, but they couldn't construct a building like a worker. In the end, it was a question of give and take, and which tool could be used the best. Hagana said that she could create a program, but couldn't put it to use. I was the reverse. However, I also knew that Hagana's understated but deep suspicions came from a different source. Things couldn't be going so well. If it were going well, that'd be just luck. If that weren't the case, then the world wouldn't be this unhappy. That's why, after the first day of trading ended, in order to help Hagana believe in her great success, I ran to the shopping center and withdrew some money. I had confidently said that I'd give Hagana 20% of all the profits, so I withdrew 240 mools based on the 1,200 mools of profits from that day. Then I shoved 2 100 mool bills and 2 20 mool bills at Hagana, who had been glancing at the trading records. I wanted to show her that these weren't profits from the fake market. I wanted to teach her that her abilities in math weren't something for solving just problems on paper, but could bring in money if used properly. Having 4 crumpled bills shoved at her, Hagana was so surprised she couldn't speak. Her face was full of surprise, like she just saw a picture of food suddenly becoming real food. When she finally reached out with her hand slowly, she didn't aim to take them, but touched them like she was checking that they were real.
This is real?
And finally, she turned to me and asked. Her brows furrowed, looking at me as if I were a hard-to-read piece of text. I didn't get angry or exasperated at her suspicion. I straightened up and nodded proudly. That's right. We made 1,200 mools today. Not in the fake world, in the real one. Hagana stared at me, then looked again at the bills. The crumpled things made a weak crinkling noise as she touched them. But even then, they definitely existed. And if she used all 4, they could buy plenty of things. Math could solve lots of problems on a desk, but cash could solve lots of problems in life. You can buy something.
Huh?
The money you made teaching math, all of it you gave to Lisa, right? Don't you have anything you want? When I asked, she apparently couldn't think of anything. With an extremely young and innocent look, she tilted her head and thought. When I went to ask Chris what sorts of things Hagana liked, there hadn't been a good answer. Maybe she just didn't have an interest in that kind of thing.
There's nothing I want.
Then she spoke. Well, that was something I could see coming, so I wasn't surprised. However, I was surprised at what followed.
But I want to use it for something.
Oh, that's great. Money is for using after all. Of course, Hagana tilted her head again when I said that, but her black eyes looked at me steadily. Then, taking 2 of the 4 bills, she spoke.
With this, I'll pay off the interest.
Huh?
The interest you paid. It should have been 200 mools. That.
Hagana pushed it at me without hesitation.
I'm paying that with this.
Oh, clever. She held the bills out at me, looking at me levelly. It was true that I had paid 200 mools worth of interest to Toyama for Lisa. She hadn't paid it back yet, and I didn't intend on being wishy-washy about it. But was there any reason for Hagana to pay it? In the end, Hagana was just like me, just living together with Lisa and having no real connection with her. Plus, Lisa probably didn't want Hagana to pay it either. Thinking about it logically, that was what I concluded. But with Hagana pushing bills at me with childlike innocence, I couldn't say it. For Hagana, the way to feel that she was solving problems in real life on her own came down to this. It was to be useful to someone, and she probably couldn't think of anyone other than Lisa. If that was the case, since my internal accounting books balanced out, I didn't care. What came after would be a problem between Hagana and Lisa. I accepted the 2 crumpled bills from Hagana. Then with this, Lisa's got no debt to me.
Yeah.
After putting the 2 bills in my pocket, I added a little extra. Lisa will be happy.
Really?
Hagana asked back like a child. Probably. Lisa's quite honest, so in some situations she might not be able to appreciate the gesture from her heart. But considering Lisa's personality, she wouldn't do something that would hurt Hagana's feelings. She'd sigh, be pleased, and feel thankful to Hagana. Afterwards, she'd find some way to scrape together the money, and when it was the right time, give it to Hagana. I could see that happening. However, there was something I didn't predict. The moment I spoke, Hagana looked down and had on a slightly embarrassed smile. It was a truly happy and worry-free smile. She probably seemed embarrassed because she wasn't that good at smiling. Just like how you can't control your body well if you don't exercise. Smiling uses muscles in your face, so it's the same thing. Still, that's why I thought that smile was a wonderful thing. I've seen Hagana smile and her relieved face before. But those were all things that just went as far as her softening her sharp eyes. Right now, in front of me, Hagana was actually moving her face to smile. And that was undeniably cute. If I weren't paying attention, I might have reached out and touched it. Hagana smiled, bent her head down, took a deep breath, and breathed out. Breathing in and out, her slim body seemed even smaller. It seemed like she was exhausted after finishing some strenuous exercise. With a bit of a smile still on her lips, she looked wearily at the table.
You're going to give me the rest?
Of course. It's yours. She gave a small nod, took the bills and folded them neatly and carefully. But from here on out, we're going to make a lot more. So much, you won't have time to fold them. With Hagana's program and my trading skills, that wasn't an exaggeration. However, the smile from Hagana's mouth disappeared, and her face returned to its usual expressionlessness. She looked at me with eyes as cold as deep space, Then she gave me a small sigh.
I don't think it would go that well.
Oh, quiet. That's got nothing to do with it. Didn't I say? It's not about saying how it would go well. But
Keep going until it works.
having her say that before I could, I was so surprised I was stunned. Then another small smile appeared in Hagana's eyes.
My heart is beating really fast. For something like this to happen? I can't believe it.
Hagana put her thin hands on top of the black clothing on her chest. Since her skin was white, those small hands seemed like they were glowing softly on a sea of black. Hagana looked down a moment as if to bear through the pain in her chest, and then she looked up. She had sharp eyes, but they were just a little soft, too. Even now, they seemed they might suddenly smile, and I felt something close to fear. Still, obviously, there was no way Hagana would be doing things like a cute girl would. But instead, with a friendly yet expressionless face, she spoke.
Thank you.
As if nothing special had happened, she quickly turned her eyes back to her terminal.
What?
Until she asked that, I had just been staring at her. Since we were winning even on the real market, the virtual market required me to only follow whatever the program said to make a profit. The top was still claimed by Mr. Troche, who had increased his funds to 56 million mools. In second place was apparently someone who clasped onto some skyrocketing stocks these past few days, shooting him into the top 10 with 41 million mools. Third through fifth were very close to each other in the low 30 million mool range. One of them had already locked in positions, so only one rival remained who was still trading. In other words, as long as I didn't do something stupid, I'd at least be able to get 20,000 mools of prize money. There was also the possibility of getting scouted by a Schrödinger Street firm. The time I spent pondering that had gradually increased. This wasn't simply a pipe dream. Since this was a reality that was actually in reach, I couldn't help but imagine what would happen. If the doors to Schrödinger Street would open, that would be a big step for me to reach my dreams. That street, watched over by a sleeping cat, was a direct golden path to enormous wealth. It was a Sunday morning, like many that I had spent at Lisa's church, while laying in bed. I stretched my hands toward the ceiling and grasped at something invisible. This was my chance. This was fortune knocking on my door. Huh? Having done my usual exercises and body training, I walked into the living room to find both Lisa and Hagana missing. It was deserted, and not a sound could be heard. Well, since this was later than usual, perhaps Lisa and Hagana had gone out somewhere. However, it still felt odd to me. Lisa would be the type of person who'd at least leave some breakfast prepared before leaving. Instead, Lisa's terminal sat on the table. On the display read a memo. were in the yard on the 3rd floor. 3rd floor? I murmured, but it did say that on the memo, so I headed for the 3rd floor. There was a broom jammed in the auto-locking door, preventing it from closing. I guess they really were outside. When I opened the door, pure white sheets drying in the sun filled my vision. In the corner of the yard was Lisa, leaning on a big cushion, reading. On her lap was a sleeping Hagana. Aww.
Not too loud,
Lisa whispered that to me with a finger over her lips after noticing me. I slowly closed the door and wedged the broom in to prevent it from closing completely. I was still baffled by what was going on here. There was a cloth sheet laid out on the ground, and cushions and blankets were used to prop up her back. In arm's reach were a canteen and a cup with steam rising out of it, as well as some light snacks. It was just like what they'd call a picnic back on Earth.
Sometimes it's nice to have one of these.
Lisa held the plate of light snacks out to me. I walked over and picked up a sandwich while standing and munched it.
Quite peaceful, isn't it?
Lisa looked up at me from behind her glasses. Beautiful weather and relaxing low gravity. These were the only things needed to turn people born on the moon into idiots. I feel like I'm about to die.
I guess you are a boy after all.
I guess I am just a boy. I shrugged and then took some coffee Lisa poured for me.
The program Hagana made.
Yeah?
It's being used on the real markets as well, right?
Hagana really took a liking to Lisa. Even now, on Lisa's lap, she was sleeping calmly and breathing through her half-open mouth. Yep, and it's doing quite awesome.
I heard from Hagana. It's almost unbelievable. It wasn't a lie for Hagana's sake, right?
Do I look that kind-hearted?
In either case, I think your kindness would show itself elsewhere.
That woman really chose her words well. I crammed the second sandwich into my mouth and said, well, anyway, I guess our current problem is pretty much solved. Not only were there the investment contest, but if we could be successful with investing in the real markets, we should be able to blow this money problem out of the water. Before long, we'd be able to make 50,000 mools with no sweat.
So, with that done,
yeah?
What are you going to do afterwards?
I had been looking at the scenery, and I looked back at Lisa. On her lap lay the sleeping Hagana, and in her hand was an old book. This was definitely exactly how Lisa would want to spend her days. Lisa wasn't the type to walk into Newton City and into the world of wealth and opulence. I had originally planned to simply rent out a place to live temporarily over here. Even if I didn't get scouted, I was planning on heading into Schrödinger Street with the experience I had from the investment contest to solicit myself. If the program continued the way it was, my funds would increase further, and there'd be no problem finding a place to live over there. However, it was very comfortable staying here. And frankly, that was giving me a bad feeling. However, I shrugged at the question and replied in the following manner. Don't know.
I see.
Well, I was talking to Lisa, so as an adult, my inner thoughts should be plain as day to her. She loosened her expression and looked at the nearby Hagana.
If you leave, Hagana will probably feel sad and lonely.
Haha, that's a great joke.
Oh? I was being quite serious.
I was at a loss for how to answer the serious-faced Lisa, and ended up hiding behind my coffee. I sipped, buying myself some time. The moon's a small place. Lisa opened her eyes, slightly surprised, and then she sipped lightly on her coffee and replied,
I guess you're right.
She continued after pausing for a sigh.
However, didn't they build up a new city? The moon will expand.
Oh yeah, I heard about that too. I think they also built a large-scale residential district over by my house.
I wonder if they could make a second orbital elevator.
Huh? Now that's something impossible.
I do wonder, but it does look like the moon is going to get more lively.
Hagana got a little restless on Lisa's lap with her talking. I guess we were a bit too noisy. Lisa looked down at Hagana and then put her index finger to her lips. Hagana was a bit restless for a while, but she eventually returned to breathing softly. Lisa stroked Hagana's head and smiled gently.
I wonder what we should do for lunch.
Lisa's words were quite pastoral, very fitting for a Sunday. And that looks like a good place to leave it here for this episode. So we're going to cut things here. Not much in regards to plot progression. This time round, we did get a little more info on just how far along we are in the financial challenge. Looks like we're pretty well slotted for getting the money we need to pay off that debt, unless something melodramatic happens. So I'm not quite sure just how much drama is left in this game, since it's only episode 1 of a trilogy, I do believe. But it is nice to see that they're all getting along finally. They do seem to be sorting out their troubles and woes and concerns with each other. Debts are being paid off left and right. I feel like we're almost getting to the end, maybe just a couple episodes left at this rate, unless something melodramatic happens to throw the financial challenge out of whack. But even so, they still have the program running in the real stock market. So, I don't know. I feel like we're soon to hit the climax, whatever that may be, and then it's just downhill resolution from there. But we're going to have to find out next week to see just how that all goes down. As always, thank you for joining me. I hope you're having fun with this series. By all means, post in the comments below what you think of this series so far. Do you think they will win the financial challenge or just rank in the top 10, top 5, top 3? Let me know what you think. and I will see you all next time.